Now that we have a final coloured graphic, it's time we applied this into a logo. It won't really become a logo until it's placed on some sort of background and has some text to explain the business name. You guys get to choose your own business name for your logo. So think of something that is relevant, considering it's a kind of quirky, fun monster, and the target audience is probably youth or a young target audience. So how do we do that? We're going to first make sure that we select all of your monster and we group it together. So you can do that by selecting the selection tool, clicking and dragging a box over everything, and then it will all be selected. Alternatively, you can click off of it and then select Control A and it will select everything. Right click and hit group. Now, when we go to select one section, it will select everything, whereas before it would have just selected different items. We can now make this smaller because it's all grouped together by holding Shift, clicking and dragging to make it a bit smaller. And I can place that in the center again. So we have a slightly smaller monster. I now want to add some shapes in the background to place my image. So over here I've got, generally speaking, it looks like a rectangle. Any tool that has an arrow in the bottom right hand corner means that there's some hidden options below it. So if I click and hold, we can see all of these other options here. Firstly, let's look at the rectangle tool. Clicking and dragging will enable me to create a shape. So there is my rectangle. I'm going to go back up to my selection tool. The shortcut is V, so I can just press the letter V and it will automatically select it. The problem is at the moment my rectangle is covering everything and I don't know where that monster is. So I'm going to right click on the image and go to Arrange and Send to Back. Note here that there are some shortcuts for sending something forward and backward. It's Control and the square brackets. The square bracket on the right will send it forward and the square bracket on the left will send it backwards. We can at the moment just press Send to Back. And now I can see my little monster and the background together. I would suggest that the background is probably a little bit dark or too similar to the tones within the actual colours of the monster, and there's not really enough contrast. So I might double click on that green and just have a play with the contrast and change it slightly. And now I've got something that looks as though it's been placed, but it's more unified. Okay, let's add some type. So if we click here on the type tool, you'll find that we can come across to our document and click anywhere on the document and press the type option once. It will automatically add in some dummy text. We might call this brand Monster Co. When I select that text, if I come over to the right hand side and check properties, I should find that I've got all of my character options. So I can select a different font, and maybe if I go through them, I think even if you click once you can press up and down, the up and down keys. You can look at some of the different fonts. I quite like that one. That's called Ink. Okay, so now I've got a font that I like, and I just want to draw your attention to the fact that you can also change the size here. So I could make it a little bit bigger. And I can change the spacing between each letter form if I want it to look a bit looser. So if I go to 200, can you see how the letters have moved further apart? Or I could go to -100 and it looks like that they're touching. I'm going to keep it at 0. Go over to my selection tool and I can move that down the bottom here. Now I can kind of play with the size of my monster I can make it look like he's almost standing on top of it. And then I might find that I can maybe reduce the size of that rectangle slightly. Add a little bit more space on the bottom so it seems a bit more balanced. And that could be potentially one of my logos. Because I already know how to save this, I can go File, Export, Export As. I'll quickly change it to a JPEG, and then I'll go Color Version 2. And then hit Export. Pardon me. Check that the background is transparent, and now we can see the green here. It's at high resolution. Press OK. Go down into my InDesign document, and I'm going to hit File, Place. I'm going to find that new PNG that I just saved, hit Open, and now I can click and drag that out, and I have a little logo. Remember that it shows a pixelated version, and I can always right-click, go to Display Performance, and ask for it to be high quality display. I've now got what was a cool graphic, and I've turned it into a logo really easily by adding a shape in the background and some text. Remember that this page needs to include a minimum of 4 different designs, but really it should be full, and it's not hard to do lots of different ones. So let's go back to Illustrator, and I'll just show you how we can change the shapes in the background. Go back over to the rectangle tool, and I want to show you this rounded rectangle tool option. If I click and drag, while I'm dragging, if I press the up key, it will increase the curve. If I press the down key, it'll decrease the curve, but it's quite nice because maybe it's not so harsh as a rectangle. Oops. So I want to move that, and I want to make it go to the back again. So I have to right click and press Arrange, Send to Back. And that might be another one. So I might really quickly go File, Export, Export As, and export it as a PNG again. Okay, let me show you some fun things in terms of text. Let's get rid of this, and this time we'll draw a circle. Ellipse tool, that will draw ovals. But if we want a circle, we need to hold Shift first. So Shift, click and drag, and I've got a cool circle here. I'm going to send this one to the back as well. Send to back. And you know what? I think it actually would suit a bit more of an oval shape more anyway. Okay, so type tool. One of the type tools, and you saw we used the normal type tool before to click once and we could type whatever we wanted. I'll just delete that. But underneath the type tool are some more options, and one of them is the type on path tool. This edge of the shape is called a path. I can click on that path and it will change it into a path where my text can sit on. So now I can type Monster Co. And maybe I might go back to my type tool and I might move that type around, and I could make it go wherever I wanted to. And I'll just click off of that so I can see how it looks. I go, yeah, I really like that. I might draw another rectangle, another oval in the background. We better change that color because that's not going to stand out. Send that to the back. And then we just need to move a few things around to have a bit of a play. I'm going to drag them all and move them all into the middle a bit better. I could make this monster a fair bit bigger. And I could probably move that text as well. Okay, so there's another option for a logo. That text probably needs to fit the shape of the oval a bit better. So it looks like it needs to be on more of a harsher angle. Maybe that's a bit better there. One other thing you can do is when you click on your text, you'll see that there's a line here. If I click and drag that line on the other side, it will change where the text is, whether it's written on the inside or the outside. So here you can see it's written on the outside, and I should be able to drag that line around and make it, it's being a bit annoying, isn't it? So it is more centered. And now instead it's along the bottom on the inside of that shape. Okay, so to change that again, you just click on this line and drag it to the other side. Now you can move it around your text so it's exactly where you want it to be. Okay, if I was happy with that, maybe I even want to add a gradient to that in the background. How do I do that again? I come up to the top, I choose gradient, and then I might maybe make it turn it into a different option. Maybe I'll double click here and I'll add some greens in, and I might change that blue to be a bit softer. And maybe I really like that. So I'll go File, Export, Export as PNG, color version 3, Export, Transparent 300, OK. Go over to InDesign, File, Place, choose the correct PNG, Open, click and drag, and now we've got another version there. So we've now got 3 different versions that we've made pretty quickly. The next step is applying them to some different mock-ups.